turn off your cell phone and go out there and have real conversations with people. People can have whatever beliefs they want to, but in the end, we're all wonderful people, and this country's full of them, and the world is full of them. But if you just sit down and have a conversation with them, you'll learn that they're just like you.
Episode 1, Peter Schuster.
This is the Adventure Sports Podcast, brought to you by 180 TAC. Get out there and have some fun. Wait a minute, Episode 1? Are you in the right place? This is not Episode 1. We are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Adventure Sports Podcast.
Curt, oh my gosh, those words. Do you remember when that was recorded 10 years ago? Was that 10. Like, do you remember the day and all that and launching and all that?
Well, Travis, this was actually Travis's recording that played first in Episode 1. I remember when we posted it with high hopes 10 years ago, Mason.
Holy cow. I know we're a little bit past the 10-year mark, but we recently celebrated that, and that is quite a threshold in the podcasting world. I mean, the medium itself hasn't been around too much longer than that. You know, it may be double that, but still not. It's a totally different world in podcasting 10 years later. You know, what is there, 4 million podcasts out there, 2 million that are active? It's crazy.
Something like that. Yeah, it's very close. Yep.
Unreal.
It's crazy.
Well, welcome to Adventure Sports Podcast. How you doing?
Thank you, Mason. I've been very well. Very well. How are you? I know there's been some radio silence on your end, so people are probably worried.
All right, yeah, we got a lot to address. We haven't published in months, in a good quarter. We haven't published an episode, and then some, not at all this year, and I do want to talk about that. And so today, folks, if you are checking us out for the first time, you're here at an interesting time, but if you're a long-time listener, you're going to kind of be wondering what's happening. You might have opened up your app today and said, what? New episode from Adventures? I haven't seen that in a while. What's going on? And so Curt and I here are going to explain it and talk about why the show hasn't published in 3-4 months and what's going to be happening in the future and kind of some of the changes and some of the updates. But the good news, and we'll just clear this right away, is the good news that the show is going to continue. And it won't be, totally different. It's going to be what you know and love as the Adventure Sports Podcast. It's going to be stories of adventure, stories of inspiration, of how-tos, of, creative ways to explore and see this world. But the who will be a little bit different, and the how might be just slightly different, not in a way that's subtractive, but additive. Curt is potentially going to add videos, so this is going to be unique for us. We're recording on a platform for the first time ever right now. And if you're new here, I've been hosting this show since 2018, October 2018, and Curt and Travis, who we've had on before and who was a part of a ton of the first 400 episodes, Curt and Travis had the show starting back in February 2015. Right. So it is, Curt, I was in your shoes, or you were in my shoes about 6 years ago when we were having a conversation. And yeah, man, anything you want to add to that before I kind of get into what the silence has been about?
Well, one thing that people should know, and I have to point this out because this is very, very important. Most listeners have never seen your beard before. And you can right now, because this is going to be on YouTube as well as all of the podcasting platforms. So if you go to YouTube, you can actually see Mason's beard. And people, it's to be celebrated. It's the real deal. So anyway,
I grew it myself.
Yes, you did.
I made it myself. Yeah,
well,
man.
I just wanted to make that kind of that's one thing that's going to be happening in the future. Maybe not every episode, but most episodes will probably be on YouTube as well as all of your podcatchers, wherever you hear podcasts now. So that'll be fun because you'll get to see guests and video maybe of some of the things that they're doing and things that they're up to. But we want to, I mean, in the past, YouTube has held our audio, but that doesn't hold a lot of appeal for people. But now we're going to have video there too. So,
Wait, that's awesome. And we're trying out a new platform today. So if it sounds different in your podcast app, just know we're giving it a shot. We're all about trying different things right now. And Curt, I don't know if people haven't seen you in a while, and so they'll see some facial hair. They'll see a nice picturesque background, whether
I
it's a
cannot,
photo or a window.
I
For
cannot keep
me,
up
that's
with
my
your
laundry
beard,
room
man.
door, so you're not seeing a whole lot.
Hey, I took this picture behind me. If anyone's
Oh,
looking, I
really?
just want people to know this is where I live. My wife and I went for a long drive in the mud, and it was muddy, but man, it was the greatest. We got stuck in the mud, by the way, for about 30 minutes, back and forth, trying to get out, that kind of stuff. But this is where I live. And I took a picture that day, and I decided I just wanted it on the wall because to me, that road is a call to adventure. It's
Hmm.
going into the mountains, it's going through the wilderness. There's mud, there's open spaces, there's blue sky, and man, that calls to me. So that's why I put the picture up.
Wow. Yeah, that's I didn't realize you took that. It's beautiful. And I can see the mud. I can see like the glistening water in the the double track in the
Yeah.
background. And yeah, that's funny. Wow, I didn't know you took that, man. That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, it
Is
was
that
date
near you
night,
where
man.
you live?
That's where we live. Yep. That this picture was taken about 15, 20 minutes from the house. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, Kurt lives in a great place. And the story there is great because you moved farther into the mountains when we first met, and which was one reason or a big reason why you and Travis were looking to offload the responsibility of the show and wanting to continue it on because the show had inspired y'all to be more adventurous as
sure.
had listened to these conversations every week would to anybody.
Yes.
Anybody that would sit there and listen to those conversations is going to be different at the end. And after that, over and over and over again, y'all both took different paths, but that
We
you were
did.
in a catch 22 because it was like, well, we want to do that, but that would probably mean not being able to host the show. And one thing about hosting this show and hosting any podcast or working in any industry, a lot of times this show especially, not this show but shows, being a podcast host, you're not often doing the thing you're talking about because you're taking the time you'd be doing the thing to produce the episodes and produce
Oh yeah.
and do the recordings to in order to inspire more people to go out, which is a beautiful thing in itself. But I'd say for long-term success and for continuing to love adventure sports especially is making sure you carve out that time to go and do it yourself, and sometimes it means a whole lifestyle change. And for you it was, hey, we're uprooting from the front range and we're moving way into the mountains in Colorado, Gunnison County, and really going deep. And that was just going to be and then Kurt or Travis was like, we're taking our whole family on the road, living in an
Yeah.
RV for a while, and that was an adventure for sure.
Yep. And
So
it continues. Travis and I are meeting in Utah next weekend for a 5 day back road or off road motorcycle adventure. So
holy cow,
yeah, it
that is
continues.
awesome.
Travis was always the big motorcycle guy because he owned one. I had a motorcycle as a kid, but didn't have one when we started the show. But I bought a motorcycle about 3 years ago, and so Travis and I continue with the adventures. We meet up once or twice a year just to ride. And so this year, it's camping and riding off road in Utah.
And that is awesome. That is so cool.
It's fun. It really is fun.
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting about the Adventure Sports podcast over the years is I think most of the episodes have been about human powered adventure, and I'm all over that too. We love it.
Hmm.
But we have a little bit of motorsports, and I think motorcycles probably got more attention than anything else because we've interviewed
Yeah.
people that rode motorcycles all over the world, and it's just amazing stories. And I remember a few of them. of the interviews, and this is from a while back now, over 6 years ago. But man, um, people that did solo motorcycle trips worldwide, and they're actually about, I counted them up, Mason, they're about 30 episodes of different people doing motorcycle adventures. And it's everything from someone on the big adventure bike, that's well planned and prepared and cruising around the globe, and to a guy who was in Australia and he bought a postie bike and rode it from Australia. Obviously, he had to take a ship, but he rode it from there all the way back to England, just on a little, like a 50cc or something. So it was, I mean, the full gambit. Anyway, so Travis and I are going to add to that a little bit, just a tiny bit, this coming weekend, next weekend.
My favorite episode is still Robert Sheeran, who did 4,500 miles on a scooter, a moped from Colorado. I think it was he was in CU Boulder and went to Alaska to go sober. And he went sober and
Right.
then did the trip. And technically, that was motorsports. It was a moped, and it wasn't human powered, and it was also not like the coolest thing to ride. But it was like the way he told the story, the adventure that was in that. It's my favorite episode. I've listened to it countless times, and I've
Yeah.
replayed it a few times, and that was very unassuming episode for the catalog.
We've had so many guests that have come on with a parallel story, and it was, I realized somewhere in there I took a left turn in life, and it wasn't working out very well. I was doing too much of, or not enough of, had lost my way in some way. And so jumped on the moped, changed my life. I sorted it out. There's
Yeah,
so many stories like that, and that's the power of adventure. It really is.
yeah,
And I remember that episode, obviously. I remember it very well.
yeah.
I really like that one too, Mason. It's great.
You know what I gotta keep remembering with this episode is like what my face looks like because I am not used to recording. That is one thing. Call me old school, but I got into podcasting to have great content to listen to while I do other things. And at the time,
Yeah.
I was like painting houses, trying to build a business with a friend, and so it was funny. I just hang out with a friend that got me into podcasting. The first one I ever listened to was Stuff You Should Know, and the episode was about
Mm.
vultures. We were listening to vultures, and I remember hearing a stat where vultures pee on their own legs to like disinfect their legs while they're standing on these carcasses. And the reason they don't have feathers on their head is so they can stick their head into a dead carcass or a carcass and
Wow.
pull it out. And it's junk and crap and bacteria and all
Ugh.
that isn't all over their head. It stays cleaner. And I was just hooked at that point. I was like, I can learn more while I'm painting a house or while I'm riding my bike and I was just so hooked. I don't know why and that was not, I mean, it was 10 years ago, but it was no, probably more than that now. Yeah, probably about 10 years ago. And I remember thinking like, this is awesome. I hope
Yeah.
I'd love to give my hand give this a shot one day.
Right.
Well, I think everyone had that thought at some point because that's why there's a handful of million podcasts now. But it was just such a cool medium, and I still love it. But anyway, I got into it for the reason of being able to be active, live an active lifestyle, yet still consume great media and great stories and great ideas. And
Right.
so I don't know
So
because of
video
that
isn't
reason,
necessary for that.
I mean that's the high level reason why I've never got into video. But the real reason is I'm just lazy. So that between the two, I'll never got into it. But I
Yep.
commend you for getting into it because that's how
You know,
podcasts are getting discovered and blowing up these days.
well, YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. And if you're not in that search engine, you're probably holding yourself back on some level.
I
Mason, I
agree.
tried a YouTube channel, which I plan to do more with, but it's called Gunny Moto because I'm in Gunnison,
Yep.
Gunni Moto. And what I do is I just ride around here and I pontificate about whatever is on my mind at the time. So it's not the same format as the Adventure Sports Podcast, but you get to see the land and
Right.
you get to see me crash and you get to see the sky and I kind of started doing video with that and man, my hat goes off to big YouTube people who do this 2 or 3 times a week. Video prep is really time consuming. It's a whole new
Oh
ball
man,
game, but
it's a
it's
lot.
fun. It's fun. I
Yeah.
think it's fun for people to get. But anyway, what about the future of the show, Mason? Where are we headed?
Let me get let me share a little bit about the pause.
Okay.
Just and then I so yeah, let me back up just a hair. So I was working at gosh, this show has opened up so many doors. And if anybody's out there listening saying I want to start a podcast and it has to do with wanting to learn more about a niche or an industry or connect with people, podcasting has been like the best way to network, to like just meet people and learn and interview your people you want to be mentors, people your heroes, and also ask them anything you want. So it's just been this amazing masterclass in being able to because you're also offering the guests something in return, which is a promotion of their brand or platform or book or whatever they have.
Yeah, sure.
And that isn't like it's not networking in that negative connotation. It really is like a it's really hard these days to just meet up for coffee when it's very one-sided, like, hey, I'm an expert in a field and someone wants to meet coffee and just basically extract information and value from me, and with nothing in return. That is a hard bargain these days. Podcasting is just such a great way. You would be very surprised if you have that idea that who would just say yes to being on a podcast. And we've had some of my absolute heroes on the show, from an email or an Instagram message. And anyway,
Right.
it has also opened up so many doors. And one of those was this opportunity to work for this non-alcoholic brewery, Athletic Brewing. That was 6 years of my life while simultaneously hosting the show, 5.5. And that all came from this podcast. Bill, the owner over there, was a fan of the show, heard about the show, listened to it on his long drives to and from the brewery and to meetings with potential investors, and just used it as inspiration. And the timing worked out, and that was just such an amazing ride. And as I was getting into that career, and we were among the fastest growing companies in the country, it was just such an experience, a wonderful experience. Started having a lot of clarity about what I wanted to do with my life. And it was the move back to Florida. So back in 2020, my family and I, or my wife and I had a baby in 2019. And after about a year, we were like, you know what? I want to be near family. I just want to have my son growing up near the people that I love. Florida is home for both my wife and I, and we loved the mountains. Thought we'd never leave. And that move was, I realize now, really instrumental because, if you don't know much about Florida, it's a small peninsula. It's very misunderstood as an outdoor recreation hub and an outdoor mecca, really, both on land and on water. And I just fell in love with it all over again, but realized just how vulnerable a lot of this land was because it's so misunderstood. It's often viewed as like being, poor natural environment just because it's flat, but it's quite the opposite. It's very diverse, very biodiverse, very unique landscape, very rich, very lush, tropical even. And I was seeing so much of it get turned from these really beautiful natural settings to concrete. And I started immediately thinking, like, who's doing something about this? It had always happened my whole life, but the rate of the accelerated development was just hard to describe. It was like it was like an onslaught everywhere you turned, every road you went down. I'm like, how is this much land being transitioned this quickly with how many unique species live here? Because I know there's tons of endemic species that we have. We have mountain lions here that we call the Florida panther. We have bears and so many animals, but those two being our like biggest megafauna. And I started doing research and realized there was a lot of people combating this and a lot of big groups. And I desperately wanted to join that fight and join that cause and protect the place that I knew and loved, but a lot of people that move here don't connect with. Florida is not blessed like Colorado is with mountains. And those mountains have inherent value. People can look up at the mountains from Denver and say, that's where nature is. That's where beauty is. That's where the lakes are and the rivers and the streams and the elk and the deer and all these gorgeous scenery and settings. Here we have similar sized wild places, but people don't get that sense of scale because you can't see it. You can't see through it. It's flat and it's green. But if you pierce that green veil, you can really have a unique and beautiful experience. But a lot of people don't. It's buggy. It's very intimidating. It's very wet. It's very swampy in a lot of places. But those places are so brilliantly breathtaking and have so much magic in them if you're willing to put in the work. But it's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy place to get into the outdoors because it is so intimidating. And we have 12-foot alligators every time you turn around, poisonous snakes and spiders and everything else. It's like a miniature Australia. And so I tell people, in Colorado I felt like my outdoor recreation was supported. People, there was search and rescue infrastructure, there were guidebooks, there were experts to talk to, well-marked trails, signage and maps available.
Sure.
Coming to Florida, the backcountry here, which there is plenty of, it's almost like I dare you to go out there is what the elements and the culture is saying. It's really scary because you might run into a gator or a bunch of gators. You might run into a meth lab out there. It is Florida after all, so there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And all that to say, I started falling in love, Curt, with the concept of my favorite place in the world, and it's the background of my computer screen that I'm looking at right now, is Yosemite Valley, and really Yosemite National Park in general in the high country. And when you look into any place like that, especially a national park, there's usually this very rich backstory and rich story with circumstances, individuals who made that place happen. And I started falling in love with those stories and wanting to be a part of how do we make more places for people to have adventures, and how do these places even come to be? A lot of the adventures we have, a lot of the adventures you've had and that are outside your back door right now, are on landscapes that are conserved in some way, whether that be at the state level or federal level. Someone somewhere made the distinction that this place was important to protect. And I through this show and through the love of adventure, and for the love of the outdoors and nature and natural processes, I wanted to be a part of creating more of these places before a lot of them are gone. And with how front and center that is in my life here in Florida now, that it was like joining the front lines of conservation. So I made the transition late last year to work in conservation. It's a very wonderful organization called the Florida Wildlife Corridor Foundation. And our specific vision is this 18 million acre connected landscape. And just to put that into perspective, that is the largest and most achievable landscape scale conservation vision in the country, and one of the largest in the world. It is nearly half the state that we're looking to conserve, and we're over halfway done with the vision. So 18 million acres, we've protected almost 11 million now, which is a huge deal. And I mean, that's not a small feat in a place like Florida that's getting 1,000 people a day moved to this state. And I know Colorado was up there for a while, but we have, a city moving here every year on a very tight little peninsula, nearly 25 million people, 23 million people. And we're trying to protect some of the most, unique and fragile ecosystems as well as species in the world, and especially in the continent. So it's a really daunting task, but it's really meaningful work. And all that to say, this is all leading up to why the show had to take a pause. The other thing that happened is we had a baby, a third child in August. A month and a half later, our house flooded from the hurricane, and then a month and a half later, I started this new job. And I think between all of that and the holidays and everything, I know everybody's busy, but between all that, something had to come off my plate. Something had to. I just could not do it all. Family stuff, extended family. We are back with family now, so we're more involved in everyone's life, and they're involved in ours. So that is a blessing, but there's also things, there's just things you have to address more often now. And so I think just between it all, Curt, I could not keep. I had to let something go, and the only thing that made sense, bittersweet, obviously I didn't want to do this, was I had to just put the show on the back burner for some time. And you and I started talking after you noticed that it was taking a break, and we started talking about the future of the show too, and having some really hard conversations about, like, okay, what does this mean? The show has over 1,000 episodes. It's been going for 10 years as of
That's
February.
great, man. That's
Um,
great. It's
yeah,
how well you've done with running this as a side hustle, you know, for over six
and
years. That's
yeah,
crazy.
man, and so to wrap up this part, that's why we've taken the break. I wish I would have planned better and been more upfront. I experienced burnout, and I don't think I've really experienced that before, and so I probably didn't recognize it as well. But because I've always been like, Curt, and I know you've been like this. It's like, well, what is burnout? You just put more hours in until something's done. You just, like what you
Yeah.
with your book. I'm just gonna get up at 4 o'clock every morning and write from 4 to 7. Like, what do you mean? That's the math. And I think with the podcast, I've just always been able to hammer it out late at night or early in the morning. And when I just mentally couldn't do that, that was very surprising. And so I don't know. I've almost felt like there was this mental block to sit down and do the show, and so I do want to apologize and say I'm sorry to everyone listening who had been listening for years of so abruptly stopping things. I didn't know what else to do, or I didn't figure out something else to do. But Curt recognized it and started talking, and we did work through it, and now we have a plan for how the show is going to continue and continue inspiring people and get to its next 1,000 episodes. So, Curt, why don't you take over from here? I've been talking for quite a while.
Well, Mason, first of all, I think you're a little too hard on yourself. People understand that, people have to take breaks. There was a show, I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a show that I've been listening to for a while. And no new podcast came out for like 6 weeks. And I started worrying that something was wrong with the host. And it wasn't you, right? It was a different show. Turns out the guy was in India. He went to India on this extended trip and just didn't tell anybody what was going on. So people understand podcasts sometimes have to have a break, right? You're being a little too hard on yourself. But all of that said, the reason why Travis and I reached out to Mason over 6 years ago was because we were at that point where it's like we can't keep up anymore, and we needed help.
Hmm.
And we thought we don't want the show to stop because we recognized that it was helping people. It's not just about having fun, although that's our tagline: get out there and have fun, have some fun. But people were being encouraged to move, to connect
Right.
with nature, to do something fun with their families, which builds relationship and health. And we were like, no, this matters. So we reached out to you, Mason, saying, would you be willing to take the torch? Because this is a relay race. It's a big marathon, but it's not a one person or a two-person marathon. And you took that torch. I don't know how you did it for 6 years. I'm amazed. But what we've decided to do is to hand the show back to me. And
Yep.
I'm in a position now where I don't have a young family anymore. I have more time that I can put into the show, and I have some ideas for more energy and different ways to branch out a little bit and maybe bring a little bit of new perspective to the show that it hasn't seen. And
Yeah.
so I am going to become the host again of the Adventure Sports Podcast, and I am super excited about it. And Mason is still going to be here. I mean, we're friends, and so we'll hear from Mason from time to time as well. But I'm now
Oh yeah.
taking the torch back. I'm running the next leg of the marathon.
That's awesome. And Curt, I know there's going to be some people happy about that because I heard from, I won't mention names, they know who they are, listeners who are like, man, I just really, I really miss Curt. I really liked Curt. Curt had such
Oh,
great questions. I'm like, oh, I know. And you've been on a handful of times over the years, and I just know you had a fan base. You had people that liked your voice and perspective, and your just kind of way of viewing things. And every time I replayed an episode of yours, which was pretty often, I would listen to it, of course, and check it out. And I was like, man, Curt always just brings the heat with the questions. He's got great questions. He's paying attention, and no, I learned a lot from you in that sense. And there was a lot of episodes I really enjoyed listening back to, sometimes more than once, because that's how long we had the show. But yeah, Curt, I'm super excited about this next chapter of the show. One, I'm happy that it's going to keep going, and the legacy is going to continue. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, taking a quarter off is hopefully just going to be a blip on the radar for the history. A small little speed bump, a small little break that is just drowned in this catalog of archived content that you continue to produce. And I'm happy to be involved and happy to continue doing this. And here's the thing too, I'm not like leaving adventure sports. I'm doing more adventure sports now than I did when I was hosting the show consistently. One, because I have more daggum time. That's the biggest reason. But everything from paddle trips to bike trips and getting out there and hiking. I'm potentially joining the board of one of the nation's national trail systems, which is awesome. So it's like I'm more involved as I've ever been. Kind of like you, Curt, when you first left the show. It was in order to live the lifestyle more. And I'm in that same boat now too, where I'm like, I'm going to have that time to do the thing that we talk about and have more stories, frankly, to talk
and
about.
with
So
your young family, Mason, this
yeah,
is the time for that. They're getting big enough now that you can take them out and focus on that because that's a season of life that goes so quickly and is so incredibly valuable. And I applaud you for making the bandwidth for that.
oh, thank you, Curt. And I know you've done it. You have great kids who I know. I've seen the pictures. I've heard the stories of you getting out there with them. So I've got some good examples around me. And the 5-year-old, I have started taking on overnight trips. We're probably going to go camping next weekend. But all that to say, for the last 6 years, Sunday nights have been my podcasting. Wednesday nights have been my podcasting, and then the recording, throughout the week in between. And it has just been that's at least 2 nights a week that are gone off the
Yeah.
table for anything. And it'll start weighing on you. But I think what's great too about you taking over the show. There isn't this learning curve. It's really just, and it's not like you haven't been doing podcasts either. I know you've been talking about your book and going on shows and releasing your own content and media that you've been producing. So it really is going to be pretty seamless here. And I'm excited, and I think listeners should really be excited about what how you've changed in the last 6 years and what you've learned as an individual, and perspectives you've gained in the process of writing your book, which we've had you on to talk about. Like there's a lot of newness you bring to the table too. You know?
Well, the main thing is that I believe in the power of nature. I believe in the power of adventure sports for health and for community and for family and just for fun. Fun's important. It's not the number one and most important thing, but you've got to have balance in life, and fun matters. So to see the Adventure Sports Podcast continue on, and for that encouragement to continue on, I mean that's why we're doing it, and I'm excited to be a part of that. It's fantastic, Mason. that to see it come back around again, where I can pick up the torch and run a little while, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So
So in 2030, Kurt, when you hand it back to me and I get the baton
yes,
again on the next lap, no,
it
this
could
is the
happen.
last time. This is the last
It could
time. No, but
absolutely happen. The goal is to keep the show going because so many people have been so positively impacted. And we don't actually have a way to tell how many people. Yeah, we can see how many downloads an episode gets, but there's a front door and a back door. And there are people that come in and visit for a while from time to time.
yep,
And so when we see the number of downloads that the show has had, I mean, how many
millions, by the way.
millions of downloads are we into now, Mason?
Approaching 9 million, I think, total in the show history.
9 million downloads. Now, that's not 9 million individual people, but think about it. It could be, it could be a million people. It could be 100,000 people or a quarter million people who
Hmm.
have checked into the show and been encouraged and come and gone. And we don't know, but we know it's valuable. And we know
Yeah.
that people are being reached. And it's a beautiful platform for the outdoor industry for people who just want to share what they're finding amazing by, their own encounters with nature and with adventure. So I just think it has too much value to not keep it going and going and going and going. So yeah, in five
Yeah.
years, let's talk.
We'll see where I am. We'll see where, if we can protect all the land in Florida, we can. I'll move on to something else, but I think this will keep me busy a while. But yeah, so what do you think you can share about what to look forward to? Based on what you have in mind right now, in your perspective
Mm.
on things around you and adventure. And I know your definition of adventure is probably refined over the last 6 years. What do you think will be different?
That's a tough question, Mason, as far as how adventure has changed because I'm going to start here. I've been saying on this podcast for 10 years now that I'm 23 years old. And the reason is because that's how old my soul is. That's my spirit. I just have always, but now I'm on video and everyone can see that the 23 at heart is not 23 anymore. But there's something that comes with that. And that is a lifetime of experiences climbing mountains, kayaking whitewater, backpacking, spelunking, skydiving, scuba diving, mountain biking, downhill skiing, alpine skiing, snow caving. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The point is, it matures over time. You learn
Hmm.
things. And, but it's not just that, it's the whole perspective about what is this life about? When I really was 23, I love the excitement. I love to blow off steam and I like to take a little bit more risk. And for me, everything was brand new in these Rocky Mountains where I play. And now I look at it and it's much more of a lifestyle. You know, Adventure in nature, it's like my best friend.
Yeah.
And I don't look for the I don't look for the risk and the thrill quite as much as the connection now. And I don't know what that means really, because we're going to continue to have guests of all life experiences and ages and adventure sports on here who will all share what they're going through with adventure. And one of the things that I want to focus on a little bit, and you've already done this, but I want to hear the heart of the matter a little bit more and the humanness a little bit more. And I know that you've always pursued that as well. But when people are willing to share a little bit about, no, this is what it really is about for me. It's not just that I did this thing. It's that this is who I am now
Hmm.
and why. So I definitely want to make sure that we include that. And I also want to introduce video So there will be a more active YouTube channel. And I would like for the topics to open up a little bit more variety. It'll still be adventure sports, but I would like to kind of explore some new nooks and crannies where the show's not gone before. And
Hmm.
so I don't know. We'll try some things, and please, listeners, let us know. If you think that was no good, that we don't need more of that, then let me know. Put it in the comments, contact me, And if you find something that you really think struck pay dirt, it's like, yeah, more of that, because we want this show to be about the listener. It's not about Mason. It's not about me. It is largely about the guests that we have on, but more than anything else, it's about the listeners. It's about the people that are watching the show to learn, to be entertained, to hear crazy stories, to come up with ideas for their own adventures, to be inspired. That's what it's really about, is the listeners. So please, listeners, let us know how we're doing,
I
and
love it.
don't be afraid to criticize. Don't be afraid to criticize. That helps.
Yeah, that's awesome, Kurt. Well, it sounds like it's going to be going in a great direction, you know, adventurous direction, and a lot of newness, and it's going to take you some time to find out what that new direction is, and yeah, listeners, please, give input, share your perspective or how the show's been meaningful to you over the years, and some of your favorite stories, even
Yeah.
interesting
You know what?
and fun.
You just made me realize, Mason.
What's
10
that?
years ago, 10 years ago, 25-year-olds were 15, and now they're 25. And, 18-year-olds are 18, and now they're 28. And
Yeah,
the reason I bring that up is because things have changed. We have a whole new wave of adventurers that have entered into this world of adventure. There's also the idea that the 40-year-old's now 50, and that changes your approach to adventure too. And
totally.
I guess there have been new adventure sports invented or that have come of age, so to speak, in this decade. And so there's so much new stuff that we can talk about, but we're also almost talking to a new generation.
Yep. Yep.
So that's
Absolutely.
cool. Super cool.
That is very cool. Oh, well, you're in a good spot. You're a good person for it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It's been an honor the past, 6 years and some change, and an amazing opportunity. And I still love podcasting. I'm still hosting two other podcasts for listeners. I will continue. I totally believe in this medium and totally believe in this um, way to communicate, way to share ideas and stories in today's world. I just think it's such a refreshing form of media consumption compared to, a lot of, I mean, since we're on video, these things right here can
Yeah.
suck a lot of time and life out of you. These
Yeah.
black screens and black mirrors, as they are known. And it still blows my mind how popular video is and how popular just watching things are, and how much it can really pull you in. And just this form of media, to me, I never feel like when I invest in a podcast or an audiobook by listening, I never feel that kind of sick feeling like I would when I just scroll on Instagram for an hour on accident,
Yeah.
and
Doom
not,
scrolling is
oh,
not
it's the
a
word. It's
healthy
like if
thing.
I ate a whole bag of chips and I'm like, the first few are great, and then it's like, man, what did I just do? And then I got to go to bed, and I'm just feeling rough. And anytime, anytime I'm just like invest in an audiobook or invest in a good podcast, and learn something, I feel like it's not like eating raw broccoli where it's just a little bit hard to go down. It's cooked well. It's nice. It's like, okay, this tastes good and it feels good.
Yeah.
It's not junk food. It's not media junk food. So I don't know. I'm still producing and still feel that way about podcasts.
So
and
name those
and
shows, Mason. What are those
what's that?
podcasts? Name those two podcasts that you're still working on.
So one is actually through the brewery. I still host their show called Without Compromise, and it's similar
I
to
like
this. I
that.
interview a lot of people who are kind of taking the road less traveled in life, and it's
Yeah.
usually it's a lot of people that the brewery has partnered with. So, example, last episode was if you're familiar with big European Premier League football, Arsenal, the football team, Arsenal, soccer team, Arsenal, one of their like global partnership people, just like his story, how he got to that position and what's different about the team, the Arsenal team that's in
Mm.
London, and really cool conversations like that. And the other one is Florida Uncut, and it's kind of the line of work I do now. I talk to people who are creating protected lands. Like, how does that happen? How do we get more state forests? How do we get more places to have adventure? How do we protect a waterway? That's in the news right now. We're dealing with that every day, and so I'm talking to the people that are actually doing that, and so that we can all learn from them about how to protect these places that we love and have adventures on. So it's two very different shows, and this podcast was, they were all very complimentary. It's honestly a matter of time. It's a matter of available time, and that's something I've had to realize as I, get older. Is like, wow, I don't have boundless energy like I did in my 20s. It does. There is a limit, and it's kind of frustrating because it's like I'm sure people who have like been strong their whole life, and then all of a sudden I know you've had your back goes out or you have something that limits you. That's got to be
Yeah.
frustrating. Just when you're just so used to doing something a certain way, and then you can't. Like that's just you're faced with your limits, and it's just never pleasant. It's never it's existential, you know.
Well, I'm going to make this point as well. And sometimes the Adventure Sports Podcast is adventure for the athlete. And I love those shows because they're amazing. I think they're
Yeah.
very inspirational. But sometimes the Adventure Sports Podcast is adventure for the people. And
Yes.
I want to make sure that it always is that. I want it to be
Yeah.
real and raw. You're not 25 forever. Adventure changes, but you don't have to quit having adventure. And so,
No.
anyway, Mason, this has been great, man. I think we've burned up a lot of time, but I appreciate the opportunity to let all the adventure sports podcast people out there know what's going on with the show and where we're headed. And I want to make sure that you continue to have input, to visit when it makes sense, to continue being a part of the Adventure Sports Podcast too. And I thank you for passing the baton back to me. And I'm ready to run the next leg.
Curt, it's don't thank me. I need to thank you for, working with me and being willing to, I know it was you this is your baby. You started this. You and Travis started this. I had adopted it for a handful of years, but you stepped in, you recognized it, and you said, Mason, let's figure something out, and worked with me, and I'm just happy that the show's going to continue going because
Well,
that's what
I
adventure is. How
think
many times have we heard stories of people facing what felt insurmountable or felt like a dead end or felt like, well, this is the end of the road for this adventure, and then something happens, or they run into somebody, and it's like, nope, just getting started. So I feel like that happened in just hosting the show itself. So
oh
I
yeah.
really think this is meant to be. You are so, I mean, people fell in love with you and your story and your way of doing things, and Travis originally. So I think that magic that y'all started this thing with is going to continue and carry it to the next level.
Well, the show is going on, and I want to continue for it to be a mouthpiece for the outdoor industry, for adventurers, for people that would like to learn more about nature and how to interact with nature and take care of nature. So the show is going on, the community continues, and listeners, thank you so much for your patience.
Yes.
Thank you for your patience with me as we make this transition because it's going to take a little bit of effort to get things rolling again, as it always does. But thank you for listening today. And until next time, get out there and have some fun.
You're going to be hearing a lot more of that.